Welcome to the One Hand at a Time podcast. I'm your host, Chris Welton. And today I've got a really cool guest with me that we actually met at a mastermind. We sat next to each other for 2.5 days, do a little bit about each other, but nothing like we're going to just really dial into now. My man, Robby, is a badass attorney in Chicago, but he's also a best-selling author.
Thank you.
Best-selling author. Life, Lies, and Second Chances. So we're going to dive into that and just whatever else comes along. You guys know that you listen to my show. You know that it's just usually two people having a conversation. So Robby, welcome to the One Hand at a Time podcast.
Thank you, man. I'm so happy to join. So happy to be on. I appreciate you even asking me. So, it's like you said, we were so dialed in, before you started the recording, we were so dialed in September when we were at our mastermind, Ben Newman, who, I had the pleasure of meeting in December of 2022, and has become an incredible friend, truly, truly one of the most genuine people I have ever met in my life, who is actually there to lift people up and have them succeed, no matter their story. And I took him on the challenge in September and was so dialed in, despite us sitting right next to each other. We had, some few conversation, and I'm grateful for you to ask, and I'm appreciative of you purchasing the book and wanting to know a little bit more about my story.
Oh yeah, my pleasure. And Ben has been, I connected with Ben in December of 2022 as well. December 26th was our first phone call Ben and I did together. So
awesome.
So I knew who he was for a long time, and I wanted to get in front of him. So I sent him the one Jordan that I do, and that's how we connected. So it was really been a powerful relationship. And then look at now we're friends, right? Now who do we know?
Awesome. Absolutely.
I've met so many people already in just a year from that relationship. Yeah. So
yeah,
super beneficial. Look, I want to jump in right out of the gate with the book. I mean, it's super raw.
Yep.
It's very, very moving. I mean, you let me frame it a little bit. I'm the son of a heroin addict. Okay. So I understand from the other side what drug addiction looks like and how it affects people around them. And so to hear a firsthand story behind it was really touching for me. Like, oh my gosh, like I can't wait to share this with other people in my life that I know have struggled with the same types of situations. When you sat down to put this thing together, what were your limiting beliefs on why you should maybe not put the book on paper? Did you have that at all?
I didn't. That I didn't have. As soon as I came out of my overdose and found my path to recovery, which was not medically traditional. Sorry, my English bulldog's back here making noise.
Yeah, no problem.
It wasn't medically traditional. And I did a podcast called Life, Lies, and Second Chances. And I've always wanted to continue to tell the story, because the path of me getting there was what I believe to be so easy for someone to fall trap to. And we can dive into that a little bit more. But, mine was prescription medication. There was something that felt okay about it. There was something that didn't allow for me to think I was a drug addict because I was going to a doctor, because I was getting my drugs from a Walgreens. And I didn't fall, overnight. It took 2.5 years, and starting off with one medication and getting to 9 at the time of my overdose, that mentally, chemically, the imbalances that I created from these prescriptions, I was like, I'm out. And how could I get to a point where the idea of life was no more? And, I know so much of that experience and all of the failures that were caused during that experience was due to the chemical changes. And, so often I think when we deal with addicts and we discuss addiction, so much is deeply misunderstood for those that don't know the experience. And despite all the medical evidence pointing to it being a medical condition, over and over it's looked at as a moral failing. And then when an addict recovers, we say things like they should have never struggled in the first place. And it's such a flawed way of society looking at, one, a mental health issue, and two, addiction and suicide ideation. You know, by the grace of God, I didn't return back to the office, and I talk about this in the story. And my assistant did a wellness check and found me there, head busted open. You know, I had overdosed on Xanax, and thank God I remember being in the hospital, and I remember waking up, and a friend from high school who passed away from heroin overdose, his mom was there because my parents brought her there, and my dad was there, and I was still such a fucking addict. Excuse my language, but I got to speak very frankly, that I ripped out the IVs and I was like, I'm out. I didn't want to accept it. I was so exposed. And I went to a rehab center. It took me 3 different times. I couldn't bear walking in there. I hid in my luggage, the pills that I told my parents I threw away. I put it in the lining of the suitcase. I talk about that in chapter 1. And when my dad walked back into the rehab center, and my parents had lost everything, and I talk about all of that in the story, and he came back out faster than I thought. And he caught me. And he looked at me and he was just like, you see? Like, he wasn't even angry. He was just like, bro, look in the mirror. Look at you. And that was like a moment of enlightenment. One, he took everything and threw it away. That was it. So now I had no more pills. I wasn't going to the doctor. I had already moved back into my parents' house. And then I was there, and I was scared straight in a night. I shared a room with a heroin addict who was like 50 or 60 years old, and I called my parents and I was like, I'll move back. I was 28 years old, and I was like, I'll move back in with you guys. Like, I'll do everything. You guys can watch me. I'll detox there. They're giving me pills here so that I don't have a seizure, so I'm still taking prescription meds. What if I get addicted to that? And my parents were like, we come from a deeply rooted family, and they're like, done, deal, come back home. And
Robby, did they have you on methadone, or what did they have you on?
Honestly, man, that time period was such a fucking blur.
Okay. Yeah.
I can't tell you. I just remember that, while I was at the rehab center, there was like set timeline, and you had TV time, and then you had book time, and then you had, it wasn't for me. And I turned to fitness because I gained, essentially my prescription drugs, just to give everybody a little bit of context, started off with Adderall. And then from the Adderall, it went to Xanax. And then from the Xanax, it just went like gabapentin, lorazepam, Prozac. My doctor was literally like, I was at a fucking candy store, and whatever sample she had on her desk, she was like, try this. And I was like, great, another pill to fucking have me escape my reality. What can I do? Let's do it. Let's go. And I would take it. That at the time of my overdose, I was on 9 different medications. Okay. I did some heavy detoxing. I was truly like, that time period was really, really a daze and a blur. But the use of the Adderall had me going into that rehab center. I'm 165, 170 pounds. I fluctuate from that now just because of my focus and discipline on fitness.
Yeah, let me stop for a second there, because Robby's like, when I start reading the book and he was 230 pounds, I'm 6'5" and I'm like 245. Okay. So he was 15 pounds within me, and I sat next to Robby,
5'10" with good shoes on. All right.
And he's lean, like lean. Like, my man is like I dream about being lean like that, right? So when I think about the 230, oh my gosh, like that is just a
It's huge.
such a drastic change. And I want to go back to your parents letting you come home from rehab, the detox at home. Man, that is like, I saw my mom detox multiple times. I
Yeah.
My mom tried to commit suicide one time, and they put her on a Baker Act, and I was driving to school 3 days later, and she was walking down the street like she got out, was just walking home, right? So
Yep.
I I'm thinking these things through as you're saying. So I'm like, there's no way we would have been able to handle my mom to try to fix that in that situation. So I'm thinking about your parents, and for those of you who are totally intrigued right now, the stories that lead up to this, though, how his parents built this empire and worked so hard and did all the things and made. And we can't discount what you accomplished prior to that, Robby. Like graduating early, graduating law school early, and like doing all these things.
You really read the book, man. I
I
appreciate you,
feel
brother.
I want to know what your opinion is here, but I feel that the way that you were raised and understanding the discipline of hard work was a direct reflection of you being able to recover and survive
No,
being an
no,
addict
you
and
nailed
survive the overdose.
it. You absolutely nailed it. And I'll tell you, I give the example in the book. Okay. Um, I come from a Christian Jordanian family, Middle Eastern family, extremely close, extremely, deeply rooted in family and love of family and, die for your family and family's always first. Um, and, make your family proud, expectations on future, be a doctor, be a lawyer, all that stuff, right? And, some people frown upon it and I loved it. I mean, it encouraged me, it drove me. I saw my parents build a fortune as a child. I mean, we were with them in the worst neighborhoods. I've been held up at gunpoint. I've been beaten up by gangs. I've seen my mom fight off people with M80 rockets. Like I've seen some shit. Okay, um, but I was born in privilege. I mean, everything on a silver fucking platter. My permit car, I wasn't satisfied with it, and my parents traded in the next day for a fucking BMW. I got $1 million condo, at 17 when I'm going to college. And I don't say any of that for fluff. I say that because it set a standard for me early on I'm gonna fucking work hard to live this life. And
You're Robby. That's so opposite to what most people would feel if they were had given those things early on. Because I have a lot of friends that were giving similar things early on, and I'm in my 50s, and now they serve me drinks at a bar. Nothing wrong with that, but I'm just saying, like they didn't learn shit from getting the BMW at 16 and all these things. So for you to understand that was your standard and not something that was gifted and given to you,
it's because
holy
I didn't see
shit,
it gifted and
dude! That
given
I
to
think
them.
that's like,
I didn't see it, Chris, gifted to them. I saw them work for it. We were children at 4 or 5 years old with our parents till 2, 3 in the morning at liquor stores, at convenience stores, at restaurants. They didn't have anywhere to put us. So we were with mom and dad. And then eventually we saw them not really working and driving Bentleys and owning 65-foot yachts. And for Chicago, that's a big fucking boat. Um,
yeah,
you know, um, so that hard work, that grit, that grind was like, all right, that's what it takes, right? And if I want that, and I know my parents didn't have a pot to piss in, because at least I saw some of that growth, um, then if they got from zero to where they are, then I'm here, and how much more could I grow? And that was the philosophy. And going back to your question about
dude, that's amazing.
detoxing at home, I tell the story of, my father, no matter how much he did give, he also did expect a lot, right? And for me, that wasn't a problem because school came super easy. I was one of the youngest attorneys in Illinois, licensed at 23 years old. Um, I went year round. I did things purposely to hit certain accomplishments because I knew it would make them proud. I talk about that in the book too, right? Like I was doing so much for them because I felt so indebted to them secretly. Um, but that man in my recovery had more compassion than I had ever bore witness to as a child. Like, I thought he would have been like, you fucking loser, you're disgusting, you bring nothing but shame on this family. And as I'm dry heaving over a toilet, this guy's coming from a different area of the house to bring a wet towel on my back and saying, it's going to be okay. And I'm like, oh wow, I gotta win again. I gotta get back to base again. And I've always been a guy that likes to take care of himself. And just by the nature of not being on Adderall, which literally prevents you from fucking eating food, I skyrocketed in 3 months. By November, I was 232 pounds. I wouldn't let a photo get taken of me. I was in hiding, okay? And slowly but surely, I was like, all right, let's start going to like a cycling class. Let's do that. And I just felt
So you
better.
were living at home then, right? When you're
Yes.
back home living at home then, when you well, I mean, I'm
I'm
sure
home.
mom
I'm
was
home for about a year
I'm
and a
sure the
half.
Jordanian food was I'm sure the Jordanian food was firing on all cylinders. Like I just want to be
All
honest with you.
cylinders.
Like
I tried
I
every single
I would
diet on the planet, and it
mm,
was tough.
I'm sure. I'm sure. Holy cow. Yeah. So you start cycling, right? You start exercising a little bit.
And I
Just a
felt
regular spin
mentally.
class or what?
Exactly. It was a soul
Oh yeah.
cycle class. And I'm not a proponent of the soul cycle. No offense to soul cycle. I don't believe that's a good methodology. I think the methodology and the free workout plan that I include in this book, along with my workout and nutrition plan, one that I follow, and a fasting program, you get a free webinar, 25-minute webinar. You get my actual workout plan that I use, and you get my nutrition guide, one that I actually use.
Yep.
I recommend that. But to start, I did SoulCycle, and it was something that I can book on an app. It was something I can put in my calendar, and something that I can look at every day at the beginning of the week and say, I'm going to be accountable this way, because it was like a meeting, and I was going back to my roots. I didn't accomplish what I accomplished before the addiction because I was fucking lucky. No, I worked hard, and I would never let anybody take that away from me, no matter what happened during my addiction. I was a fucking rock star, work ethic, nonstop, because I really wanted to succeed. I wouldn't have started a law firm at 25 if I didn't have that grit and grind. But unfortunately, I got lost in the depths of prescription drugs. So I was like, okay, I'm not seeing the weight fall off, but I'm feeling better mentally. Why don't we start doing some other stuff too? So then I, found a trainer and I started working out with him, 4 or 5 days a week at a group fitness class. I love group fitness. I think group fitness is fantastic. I think it's a great way to start. You're encouraged by the people around you. And, what is it now? 6 years in, I train myself. And, I am physically maybe 5-6% body fat. Maintain that now for quite some time. That's I never had that. Never. Not any day my entire life. I've never been in this physical shape, let alone the mental fortitude and resilience that I have now. Never. And I'll tell you, it's come from fitness, and a focus on my health. If you don't have your health, you got nothing.
I agree with that 1,000%. And our co-mentor here, Ben Newman, talks about stacking wins, right? So I feel that you stack so many wins on the personal side, Robby, that if that feeling of falling back, that feeling of something that's going to come at you that feels defeating, you can take it head on, right? I mean, it's
Totally.
because I do the same for myself, right? Like I cold plunge every day, not because I like to cold plunge, right?
Yeah.
But I
You
do
want
it
to put your
because
body
it
to rest.
pushes me to do something that I'm uncomfortable doing. So when my phone rings and it's something that I don't really want to handle, I just take it head on and I'm good. Right.
Yeah.
Um, how has that journey been for you to not head back to the opioids, not head back to that life? I mean, I like I said, I was raised the son of an addict, and I saw her go to rehab no less than a dozen times in my life. Okay, and she was still abusing alcohol and pills up till the day she died. Right. So I'm just curious from your, like, what is that like for you?
So here's a real frustrating part about the whole thing. Okay. Um, as I talk about and discuss in this book, during the time period of my addiction, I was fucking up in my business and I was mixing all of the accounts and not keeping things
Yep.
clear. And ethically, as lawyers, we got to keep our shit in order. Um, and I was just getting by. Okay. Um, I then get into a car accident in like 2021. The lawyers that represented the guy in the car accident decided to report me to the ARDC, which is our Attorney Registry Disciplinary Commission. And despite that not being something that is an ethical violation, during the period of time from 2016 to 2018, I had fucked up on my books. And I had fixed it all well before a hearing was ever done on this thing, right? Didn't have a client complaint, didn't have a fucking issue. Because I knew I had to fix shit. I knew I fucked up. Like, trust me, I was fucking up like crazy. I didn't even want to live. Like, and a part of that process was I had to get a forensic examination. And I was faulted for not going back to see a therapist, which I'm currently in therapy now. Not because I'm required to, although I am required to, but because I found a therapist that can't prescribe me medication. And I found someone that I absolutely adore, who I really find value in it. And I actually talk about it in the book. I now am a believer in proper mental health therapy, talk therapy, if you can find the right person. Okay. But my experience was fucked. I was 5 minutes in that doctor's office that first day. I was getting prescriptions, refills, calling and saying I ran out, and it was like a week in, or, oh, I lost my medication. And all I had to do was she'd call it in. At the time of my overdose, I was going through 300 to 500 milligrams per day of Adderall. I was going probably through 4 to 6 milligrams of Xanax per day. I was running out of monthly prescriptions in less than a week. Nobody's going to tell me that experience. That fucks your mind up. And I never wanted to get myself back into that position because I fell so fast. And a doctor made me feel comfortable, and going into Walgreens didn't make me feel like a drug addict. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't going to have anyone force me to go back into that setting when now I'm going through this fucking super tough time, despite fixing all the shit without anybody telling me to fix it. And they want me to go back into that setting? Who the fuck are you? I'm in the gym every single morning at 5 a.m. for an hour and a half. I am at a peak fucking physical fitness level that you would never imagine. And you want me to go talk to my problems so that a doctor can give me prescription drugs because I'm going to say I'm having a stressful day? No fucking thank you. I get angry talking about it because...
Yeah, rightfully so, though.
I know my experience, and I'm not letting anybody dictate or determine that experience or tell some narrative that isn't the truth, which is why I wrote this book, which is why I talk so vocally about my addiction on my Instagram, at Robby_Esquire, because it worked, and it worked before therapy. I've maintained the same physical fitness routine since the day of my recovery. Obviously I've been more committed. I've done more. I've done, half marathons, triathlons. I challenge myself. I do more things. But some random doctor for 3 hours is going to tell me that what I've been doing isn't actually working. Are you out of your fucking mind? I don't care what degree you have on the wall.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was tough.
When
it was tough
when they
because I was so afraid of that.
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure. So in 2021, you said they went back into the forensic audit on your books and they found these anomalies in accounting or commingling of funds, like you talked about in the book. Um, when I first read that, I was like, okay, well, something must have happened from that, because I don't know any attorney that would put that in there if they like. I mean,
I
that's
don't
like,
know what's
I mean,
I don't know what's going to happen yet, which is why I tell this story.
oh, you don't?
This is the
Okay,
story of the
okay,
struggle while you struggle. I'm still waiting for the Supreme Court to rule on it. And, when I met Ben, just to pull it all into context, okay, when I met Ben, I was at a CEO Lawyer Summit, which was essentially social media for lawyers. And I was going to I've been halting myself for such a long time. I have a natural ability to talk. I really like talking on a camera. I used to prop up my phone and do it all the time. Ali Awad, who's the CEO lawyer guy, he found me on Instagram and was like, you got to come to this thing. Um, first year I said no. He reached back out second year and he's like, dude, just trust me. You should do this. So I went. And I'm standing around a group of guys the first day, and in walks Ben, who's a Goliath of a human, and everybody was enamored. And I didn't know who he was. So I turned to the guy next to me and I was like, who the fuck is this guy? Why is everybody like, wow? And that asshole then said in front of Ben, he doesn't know who Ben Newman is. How do you not know who Ben Newman is? So then I said, sorry, my name's Robby. Nice to meet you. And he laughed and was like, dude, I don't care if you know me or don't know me. What's going on? Nice to meet you. Like a total normal human being.
mm-hmm.
So then later I looked on
Yep.
Instagram and I saw who he was. And I sent him a message. And I was like, hey, man, it looks like you're into fitness. I'm going to be getting up at 5. Do you want to get a workout together? So I'm downstairs waiting for him in the lobby, and I'm wearing a shirt that says Relentless Pursuit. It is a tank top by a brand called ASRV. I got about 30 of them. All right. They're fantastic. And he looked at me and he's like, really? You didn't know who I was? And I was like, no, dude, I didn't know who you were, but I'm really honored to meet you now because I looked at your stuff and I think it's awesome. Mm-hmm. He's like, do you know what my speech is called? You know, the one I'm doing a speech on? And I said, no, it's called Relentless Pursuit. And I was like, I've had this shirt for about 3 years, dude. This is like what I brought to work out in. These are the only tank tops I work out in. And it was like this cosmic connection. And he's like, I love this. This is gonna be a great bond. But my workouts are the unrequired, and we're doing it outside. I don't give a fuck if it's 30 degrees in December in Atlanta. We're doing it outside. So we did. Mm-hmm. And his workout. We've done it together. And,
Oh, yeah.
it's a lot of still movement. It's push-ups. It's, planks. It's air squats. It's jumping jacks. And, if it's just you and another person out in the middle of the street in the complete darkness in the wintertime, you talk. So I told Ben my whole story. And he was like, well, I told him the story that's the book. And he's like, you got to tell this story. And I was like, no, I got enough heat, Ben. I haven't even gone and done this Instagram platform stuff and going and expanding my business because I want to wait till this punishment is done and then I'll try to launch my career. And he's like, no, that's not the way it works. You go after everything, no matter what, in the face of adversity, and you never let anybody tell you no. And the rest is history.
Well, I would think that, first of all, Ben being in our corner is a big deal. Like,
totally. He wrote the
understanding
foreword to
connection
my
you have with
book.
Ben.
I'm so grateful.
I literally, oh yeah. He's got a quote on my book, on the cover. And then there's a whole chapter about him. And, I met Ben by sending him one Jordan shoe and a handwritten note that said, if you want the other shoe, give me a call. Right. And the other shoe's right there. Like, he literally sent, we both have them. If you see him speak on he's got it sitting behind his head, the other shoe. Yeah. So our relationship has been crazy over the last 13 months. My book comes out in a couple weeks called One Jordan.
That's awesome, man. God bless. Congratulations.
Yeah, well, thank you. He's a pivotal part of the decisions I've made to be able to push and grow. He had me as a guest on his podcast, and you've been on his podcast too, right?
No, I have not yet. I do one-on-ones
I'm
with
sure
him.
It's coming. I'm sure it's.
Yeah. I just joined his coaches
Yeah.
program. I know you were asking what's coming for the future, which we can talk about then, but please finish.
Yeah. So, but Ben has been one of those people that has really pushed me. And I'm so happy to have somebody like him on my side that's real, and I don't feel like he's trying to gouge me or take advantage of me or anything else.
Oh,
He's
God.
100. Like he
Oh,
was just in town a couple weeks ago. He was at a bowl game a couple weeks ago in Orlando. He's like, Welton, you want to come work out? I'm like, yeah, because I live just north of Orlando. Was there in the morning. We worked out. He gives me all this Kansas State gear. He gets me on the sideline for the game. I mean, it was the craziest thing. Like, but that's just who he is, right?
Yeah, he
That's who he
posted
is.
my
And,
book. He posted my book on his story,
Yeah.
and I didn't even ask him to. And I'm just like, you know, I got 75,000 followers. That's great, and you know, it's building. You know, we've reached over 1.3 million accounts in the last 30 days, which is I've never hit those numbers. But I mean, he's got over 500,000 followers, and he posted my book, and I'm just like, I didn't even ask him to, and you know, it's not like he got paid to write my foreword. Like the guy is, it's like, he is a great human fucking being, and I will do anything and everything in my journey to be able to uplift him as he's uplifted me, because that's what you do to good people.
Yeah, and what I really enjoy about him too is the connections that I've been able to make so far from being with Ben, right? So like now you and I have a connection, right? And Amber Lee Lago, who spoke at the event recently, I'm flying to Dallas next week to be on her show, and countless other people that I've become friends with. But it's amazing that somebody you least expect, that you barely know or don't know, is willing to take you on and help you, you know, and that's just massive. So let's talk about what's next. I mean, you obviously have a great law practice, and I'm sure that things are going to get worked out because you're a good person. And I know a lot of bad people that get shit worked out. So I'm sure that you're going to be fine there, and get through that. But you said you're in the coaching coaches program. Is that what the one's called?
Yeah, look, I mean, if there's one thing I am, it's resilient. And I built that over time. And I've been preparing myself since the start of this thing for any outcome. Because I'm not going to get taken down. I'm a fucking fighter. I've fought my way back to living. So nothing's going to stop me. And that's the mentality you have to have. And it's taught me, you know, I look back now, Chris, and I'm almost thankful to that attorney in that car accident case who opened this can of worms. And I know that sounds insane, but the blessings that have come in my life, the dedication not only to growing my practice, to building this virtual digital law firm that has grown. You know, we did over 113% of what we did the year before last, this past year. At a time when I was supposed to fail, I'm fucking winning. And I wrote a book. I'm owning my story. You know, nobody's telling this story. This is my story to tell. No matter what headlines out there, no matter what's there, I know my experience. And to get a book deal, you know, I got signed with Equinox Hotel for a collaboration. I have a New York City Times Square billboard coming out on February 16th for hitting bestseller status. I'm going to be creating content with Equinox Hotel as a part of their branding collaboration that they've, reached out to me and did. And there's so much more that the future holds when you keep fighting. And I hope to continue to tell this story. I hope to be able to be and leave an impact in the space of substance abuse, mental health, suicidal ideation, to stop this idea of morality flaws and they should have never done it in the first place. And you don't know if you don't know. So I'm going to tell you. I don't care if you've not gone through that experience. And I hope my voice reaches as many people as possible. And God gifts me with the ability to make that happen. And, I know that I'm going to continue to be dedicated, and, having someone like you reach out and say, come out here and tell this story of these ethical failures, these potential decisions that are going to be levied against your law firm, and expose yourself in such a raw, authentic way, because I could potentially save a life. And I'm going to fucking do that every single day.
Well, you've got me. I'm going to push you out there everywhere with that, man. I've got something else that we'll talk about when we get off here, that I'm doing in June that I'd love for you to be part of. It's platforms like this where we're able to tell the stories that we need to tell to help other people. We have a responsibility to help people that we were 5 and 10 years ago. That's a responsible as an adult to do those things. Now, not everybody does that. But what I want to tell you, Robby, is I really feel certain that the stuff you're going through from the car accident now is a test. This is God testing you. Do you really want what you say you want? Okay? Because 99% of people would be like, oh, I got to do something else. Right? I mean, I've been tested so many times in my life. And when I look back on it now, I'm like, God, I never stopped. I don't know if it was just like this. I have this Goggins mentality in my head where I just push myself until I fall over. But those were all tests. And what happened after those tests is my life got better for me and everyone around me every single time. Every single time. Okay. So I think you're right. I think it was the fact that it happened was just something that needed to push you. It needed to make sure that you understood how important your sobriety was to you and everyone else, because it could have been easy to go backwards, Robby. You could have backslid and people been like, hey, this is why. Like, you know what I mean? Like, no, bullshit. Like, this is the test. I'm fucking passing the test, and I'm running this shit. This is what we're doing, dude. So the only other thing I got to say is I was really disappointed at the one spot of the book when I realized that I graduated high school 2 weeks after you were born. So there's that. I shared that with you before I got on, but I was like, damn,
I'm
man.
grayer than I'm grayer than a lot of people think. But I was born in 1990, so I'm 33 going on 50 with the life experiences I put myself through.
So as we finish here, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you and to reach out to Robby?
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you, first of all. Obviously my Instagram platform, it's Robby, ROBBY _Esquire. That's my go-to. I have a full media team, so we're also on TikTok and the YouTube shorts and, Facebook. But, in terms of me every day, things that are not, high quality video content, stuff that I'm talking about, the struggles that I'm going through that day, my, workout that I have, you're going to see all that every day. And for the book, for Life Lies and, Life Lies and Second Chances, what we have here, you can go to lifeliesandsecondshances.com to purchase a copy of the book. It's available on Amazon. We're working on global distribution. I'm going to have an audiobook coming out. That's the next step. And, send me a DM. If you're struggling, send me a DM, but you got to give me a follow because it goes into hidden requests and I got a lot of creepy shit in there. So, if you need help, I got you. And if you're currently struggling and you think you can't get out of it, I promise you, I'm currently struggling and I'm never going to go back to it. And I give you the tools in Life Lies and Second Chances. Not just my, firsthand account of my story that'll pull on your hearts, but you'll get the workout plan. You'll get the nutrition plan. You'll get every single thing that I've done, including a, 25-minute discussion on how I got to having the daily discipline to stay on the path in the face of adversity. So thank you so much, Chris. I appreciate you, brother.
Oh, you're so welcome. And if you're on a treadmill right now or drive and listen to this, everything he just said is also going to be in the show notes. So you can click on that. We'll put the link in there for the book and a link to his Instagram page as well. And Robby, I love the book. It's been a great read for me. Very well written, easy to read. So grab a copy of the book. Check my guy Robby out. Thank you for tuning into the One Hand at a Time podcast. Please make sure you like and share the episode. And we'll see you next time here at the One Hand at a Time podcast. Make it a great day.